the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Now, I don't consider myself a conspiracy buff at all, but when they get a lot of coincidences, I get a little suspicious and call me crazy.
Polls, weird talk shows, crazy groups every Sunday telling you what you think.
The Republicans and the Democrats conspire with one another, which they do.
There is a conspiracy by big business against American democracy.
We know that there was a conspiracy.
There was a conspiracy.
There was no conspiracy.
Was there a conspiracy?
It's a communist conspiracy directed out of Moscow.
The right-wing conspiracy.
Communist conspiracy is a deliberate and predictable plan of action to subvert the world.
Right-wing
conspiracy. It's an international criminal conspiracy.
Vast right-wing conspiracy.
Great conspiracy.
There are all these conspiracy theories.
Was there a conspiracy? I don't know.
Perhaps themselves even involved in the conspiracy.
There was a conspiracy.
No evidence
of a conspiracy.
Anybody would have to be a fool nowadays to dismiss conspiracies.
Conspiracy theory.
Cockeyed conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory exists because there really is conspiracy.
But they never told a soul about it. In fact, they engaged in a vast conspiracy.
Since you get accused of being a conspiracy theorist, of being a paranoid.
The historical context of actual conspiracy.
A conspiracy of bad people.
As always happens at some point in a conspiracy. One night, Cousin Eddie got drunk in a honky-tonk and spilled the beans.
There was a conspiracy, and government was involved in it.
Conspiracy existing within the United States government.
There was a conspiracy.
A
Conspiracy by the CIA.
The conspiracy of a few.
Dark, secretive, conspiratorial, evil.
Then it was certainly a deliberate conspiracy.
High-level conspiracy.
The do's and the don'ts and the rights and the wrongs of the various conspiracy theories that are good.
Possibility of a conspiracy. In a moral sense, I think it was a conspiracy.
One conspiracy, that's all I'm talking about.
Full of speculation, conspiracy theories, and the like.
And what's going on here? You began to wonder what was really happening in America. I mean, was there a vast conspiracy afoot?
You know, there could have been a conspiracy.
Do you think you're obsessed with conspiracy?
Conspiracy theory.
A conspiracy.
I'm afraid you'll catch me. I'm afraid you'll catch me.
A conspiracy would do the job nicely.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Baseless Conspiracies. Very excited about this episode because we have a special guest. Zach, how you doing, man? You're muted. Maybe let's keep it that way.
Careful, son. I'm doing well, and I'm excited to have our special guest here tonight as well. This is a subject we've actually talked about before, and I've actually had a couple of conversations with our guest tonight about this as well. But the subject refuses to die, not only because of the intrepid efforts of our special guest, but also they keep bringing it up in the news. Apparently,
I did not know that.
That's right. The search for MH370 continues to this day because, I mean, if they're going to keep up the ruse that they have no idea what happened to MH370, then they have to continue to search for it because there's never been a passenger jet in history that just disappeared into thin air and never appeared anywhere again.
I mean, didn't they even find like Amelia Earhart's plane, but they can't find this one?
I think they did, but I mean, it was many. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. And if I'm not mistaken, it was also like half devoured by crabs.
That is unfortunate. I was going to make an STD joke there, but I couldn't think of it quickly enough. But anyway, I'm going to get a quick word from our two sponsors of tonight's show, and then we shall bring our guest on. Let's kick it off with the little Manly cans. They are back in the mix just in time for Father's Day. Manly Cans is the ultimate destination for spoiling the guys with cool stuff they actually want. Each Manly can is an experience and even a greeting card that doubles as a coaster. Customize your Manly can to fit his personality. Choose from a wide variety of cans, and during checkout, add additional items to make it just right for him. Spoil all the dads in your life. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/manlycans and use promo code badlandsmedia for free shipping on purchases over $50. That's badlandsmedia.tv/manlycans, promo code badlandsmedia. And today's show is also sponsored by Save Pulse. Save Pulse, they're dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top quality medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine, all at unbeatable prices. Their streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on health essentials. And now with exciting news about fenbendazole showing promising cancer research, they're proud to offer this alongside their antibiotics and other viral care meds. Don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and stay ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use promo code SAVEHEALTH at checkout to get a 20% discount on orders over $100. That's badlandsmedia.tv/meds, promo code SAVEHEALTH. And do you want to maybe give a little intro for our guest?
Well, yes, of course. So our guest tonight is Ashton Forbes. Ashton, as I mentioned, in my opinion, is the preeminent voice when it comes to the ongoing investigation of MH370. And that's due in no small part to his analysis and breakdown of a couple of very key pieces of evidence that were revealed actually many years ago, but didn't really surface in the popular narrative until pretty recently. I'd also like to say Ashton did over 2 hours on his own channel right before coming on here tonight. So the fact that he's joining us is just incredibly gracious of him. And I think that without further ado, we should bring Ashton in and have him introduce himself to the audience. Ashton, welcome to the show, sir. You're muted. You're muted, buddy.
I was just muted, big deal. Hey, thank you very much, gentlemen. I am Ashton 4-0 today. I think my sign for days. So just Ashton 4-0. But no, happy to talk to you guys tonight about MH370. Certainly going to be probably one of the more interesting episodes. And I'm really looking forward to digging into some of the evidence around why MH370 is a conspiracy and answering people's questions as to why this was done and why the need for this cover up.
Absolutely. And Ashton, you've also put together some new evidence yourself in regards to this investigation as well. And it's not always the case. I mean, we've spoken about this a couple of times before. And a couple of weeks ago, I caught a live stream that you had done. And I thought to myself, my gosh, he's done it again. Yet again, you just keep finding these pieces and pulling it into the investigation. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think it shouldn't be surprising because if those videos are real, then you would expect this kind of stuff to happen. You would expect there to be like these revelations. You're like, oh, crap, this is this thing. And you start identifying these key components of what's going on in the videos, from everything to the cameras revelation, probably speaking about the Gorgon Stare revelation, which was huge. And to just tonight, I was talking about what the plasma orbs are, like literally figuring out exactly what the plasma orbs are, who was working on them, working on that research, developing it, which branch of the military, etc. And then also piecing it all together. What is the overall story of this? It's one thing to say, okay, we've got these crazy videos and this stuff's going on here, but another thing to say is like, why is this happening? Why did this mysterious plane get covered up? So
makes sense.
I think the best way to do this, in my opinion, is like the whole way we do this show, we were kind of explaining beforehand. Zach presents conspiracy theory, and I am the straight man, both in terms of my role in the show and my sexual orientation. And so I think we should like start at the beginning, because it's been a while since we've done this, and walk people through, because we're jumping in talking about revelations and plasma orbs, and people might have no idea what's going on. So I think we should start at the beginning and just walk us through the whole thing.
This is the teaser, John. Don't worry. He's got the videos all queued up. I'm certain of it.
Well, so I think to summarize it, there's a missing plane, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, disappeared March 8th, maybe March 7th, depending on your time zone, 2014. We have still been searching for this plane for 11 years. Never found the plane. They did find a few pieces of debris that washed ashore in Africa between 1 and 2 years after the plane disappeared. The only trace that we have of where this plane went are some Inmarsat satellite pings that were analyzed by bloggers on the internet that determined that the plane went into the South Indian Ocean. That's where we've been searching, based on these satellite pings that would indicate that the plane ran out of fuel and ended there somehow. The problem with this theory, there was never a debris field found. A Boeing 777 is not like a Cessna. This is one of the biggest airline planes in the fleet. It had 239 people and over 1,000 pounds of inflatable flotation devices, just as some of the stuff that would float. We never found any debris field. The United States government and many other governments never made any data publicly available about what happened to the plane. The narrative that has formed over the last 10 years slowly has been one of a pilot that suicided the plane, that studied ocean topography to find the exact right place to bring the plane down, perfectly landed the plane after an 8-hour flight of running out of fuel, perfectly landed in the ocean, and then decided they were just going to slowly sink it to the bottom like Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. Goodbye, Rose. I'll never see you again. And that somehow nobody saw this and nobody ever found the plane anywhere, even though Ocean Infinity mapped huge swaths of the ocean floor. And you can't hide the debris field of a Boeing 777 above water or below water. So the last thing I'll say is flash forward now to August of 2023. 2 videos reemerge that have been confirmed to be on the internet since 2014, since weeks after these videos, since after these planes disappeared, that reappear on social media site Reddit that seem to show 2 different angles, military footage of a Boeing 777-200, which we've deduced must be MH370, flying through the sky. Where's my model? Where is it? Oh, no.
Oh, man. I want a model airplane.
My plane model is MIA at the moment. But so the plane is flying through the sky, and 3, for lack of a better term, orbs spin around it. 3 orbs start spinning around the plane in both the videos that are in perfect synchronization. And then all of a sudden, bloop, the plane is just gone in both videos. So enter me, enter the community. People researched. I basically took the research that people kind of gave up on because they decided, oh, no, we're looking at Call of Duty or video game effects or something from the 90s, or decided that, oh, no, somebody like stitched together a bunch of images and somehow made these magical, like, different videos from 2 different perspectives. So I took that evidence and I just started running with it. I said, if this is real, then we're going to find a conspiracy related to this plane. We're going to find out what these plasma orbs or whatever these things are that are flying around the plane. We're going to find out how this video got on the internet. We're going to find out why all this stuff happened and what's the bigger picture. And now let's do it.
Yeah. So can we look at that video of the, do you have the video of the orbs? And I have so many questions just about that. Like, how did you guys confirm that this video, that satellite, like almost heat map image or video, is MH370?
Okay. So this first video is Gorgon Stare, Air Force's Gorgon Stare wide area motion imagery. So this is spy surveillance capability. This is on a drone. Drones carry these underneath their wings. So Gorgon Stare Increment 2 had 2 cameras underneath the wings of an MQ-9 drone looking down. This plane is flying at low altitude. We can tell this is MH370 right away because it's a Boeing 777, and because in the bottom left, you can see coordinates. Those coordinates are the Nicobar Islands. So given the proximity of the release of this video and the fact that it had metadata in it, that it said it was MH370, this is the Nicobar Islands. The plane just flew straight from the last radar plot. Before those Inmarsat pings kick in, the plane just flew straight, and this is where it's at. It's flying low in this. Those are cumulus clouds. There's a drone above it. And
do they typically monitor planes like this? Like, what are the odds that this plane?
No, they definitely don't typically monitor. I mean, now let's just, in terms of Space Force, sure, I'm sure they're monitoring every plane, but they're not monitoring them like this. You know, they're not monitoring with a drone flying above it. So no, right away, the only answer to the question of why are they recording is that this is an operation. That's the only answer. If you can come up with another one, I'm happy to hear it. But as far as I can tell, the only reason why you would be recording this is that you know what's going on and you're the ones in charge of what's going on. So when we see these balls of whatever spinning around the plane here, our first inclination should not be, oh, aliens came down and are spinning. No, our first inclination should be whoever's recording this is the one who is perpetuating this weapon. That's a weapon. that's being used on this plane.
How fast would those orbs have to be going forward and circling a plane?
Yes, they have 360-degree motion. And we can answer more questions about the orbs in the second video, but I have more details to bring up. It also says NROL 22 in the bottom left corner. This video was called Satellite Video, Airliner, and UFOs. That was the name of the video.
No
and
way.
it has NROL 22 in the bottom left corner, which is a National Reconnaissance Office launch of satellites. That's what they designate their satellite launches. This is why the person who uploaded this thought it was a satellite video. It looks like a plane, so they assume that plane must be flying really high in the air, and it must be being recorded by a satellite even further high. That's the relay satellite. That's the relay satellite connected to the Gorgon Stare pods. They relay this information to the people watching this operation happen in real time. In fact, the frame rate proves this is Gorgon Stare. See how it's jerky? It's like, it's kind of slow watching it. This isn't video. Technically, this is WAMI, wide area motion imagery. The software system actually stitches together clouds, pictures that are being taken all the time, stitches them together into a huge realistic video playback system, or WAMI playback system, where somebody can interact with it. You can notice the person interacting with it. You can actually just go and Google right now, if people are interested, to check out Argus to see how the system works. In the background, the person has a huge tactical view. And this is a window pop-up that's tracking the plane. Watch the mouse cursor. You're going to see a mouse cursor come on the screen. They're moving the window around with the mouse cursor by clicking like middle mouse button, and they can move it around. This was the biggest indicator that what we were looking at here was real, legitimate military footage. Anybody that's
almost like moving
Stare,
Google Earth or something like that.
Even better, frankly.
Yeah.
But yes, it's like that. And so they just have the drone loitering above the plane, and then it's just producing this video playback, which they can watch in real time, or someone can log in. And this gives us a big clue. How did this get onto the internet? Well, now we have a really good idea. We're watching someone record a window screen. We see the mouse cursor. Look at the mouse cursor right there. Watch the mouse cursor go to the top right here as well. After the plane's gone, mouse cursor comes onto the screen. There it is. Goes to the top right, closes the window. Window's closing, but it's still recording. This video is still playing right now. They were still recording here. Why are they recording here still? How are they still recording here? They didn't hit stop record. Let me see if there's any other details that I want to point out right now. Oh, the way these orbs are moving, that's not aliens, and that's not even humans inside those orbs. This has got to be controlled by a computer, an AI or what have you. Watch this first orb, almost like it, kind of like it's tracking the plane, but doesn't quite get there until the second rotation. The second and third orb immediately lock in. Look at that. They're already in a triangle formation, but they're missing one orb. And then watch what the third orb does when it flies in. Immediately goes into triangle formation, like it's just going to the missing location. And this is called something called magnet inversion. So if you put a positive magnet surrounded by negative charge magnets, what it does is if you pull another magnet next to it, they get close, but they will get to like an equilibrium point where they won't get closer and they won't get further away. Yeah. And that's what these things are doing, which means what they are is like a ball of charge, like a little ball of lightning, you could think of it. And then the last thing is clearly they have some purpose here. Look at how they're spinning around the plane, like in every direction, almost like they're mapping it to figure out like its size and location. I think they're actually quantum entangling it. And then they spin around like that and change their orientation to a vertical pattern. That's got to be by design. I think they're doing some form of, like, we would call it short distance teleportation, but like just maybe the speed of light or something like that. Essentially manipulating space and time as the White House advisor, Kratsios.
Yeah.
So before I go to the second video,
I do have a couple of questions. So, I mean, you've been studying this for a while, but based on the satellite imagery and everything, there's no possible way that was like laser lights or anything. Like, it has to be something physical.
That's definitely physical. And yeah, again, it's not satellite imagery. It's drone imagery from a Gorgon Stare pod. So it's significantly different because of the distance and how far away it is. But if you do the math, that drone, if that plane's a few thousand feet above in the air, which is what it would indicate based on those clouds, then that drone's probably around 20,000 feet above it, which is still well within the altitude limits of a MQ-9. What other questions Do you have
look, and then another thing. So those you said it was like a series of pictures almost stitched together, right? Is it possible that where the plane disappears, there's like a series of images missing?
In terms of tampering overall, I think the probability is 0, frankly. In terms of could the U.S. government have manipulated their own footage before releasing it on the internet? The problem is that it implicates them. And I was open to the idea until I found like the actual leaker of the videos and stuff like that. So for me, there's no possibility that they would have tampered and leaked this and for themselves, because they're not promoting it. They're still hiding it and still trying to suppress it. Like I'm not going on Joe Rogan because people are telling him not to have me on.
Really?
But also because it implicates them. Like if you were faking a video like this, you're not going to fake it like with the plane disappearing. You're going to fake it where like the plane goes off to Happy Land and lands safely or whatever, because you don't want to be implicated in the disappearance of the plane. Like if you're reporting that comes out, the first person you're going to ask is, well, that's the U.S. government. We can just see from the second video I'm about to show a General Atomics drone, which tells us right away it's the United States government.
Yeah.
So whatever's happening in that video, like they're implicated. So I can't at least come up with any story that makes sense for them faking their own, video. And the killer is that it's Gorgon Stare. So because that's Gorgon Stare, like a lot of people have seen that capability. A lot of people, anybody in the Air Force who's seen it will be able to corroborate you're looking at the real capabilities, which means that for anybody to fake it would mean they would have to know what that looked like. And until about a week ago, almost no one in the world knew what Gorgon Stare even meant.
I never heard of it before I heard you talk about it.
So unless you were John, like in the Air Force, and it was pretty new, like it had just come online 2011 and it was dog shit, and then they upgraded it like right before that plane disappeared, and I almost guarantee we're looking at increment 2, which was like the major improvement they did to it.
Yeah, I mean, I personally can't think of any reason why the United States government would want to release something like this out into the wild, because obviously it starts a conversation about things that they don't necessarily want to talk about. And even having to deny that something is part of our technology skill set, I mean, that's obviously going to put it onto the minds of people that don't necessarily need to know about it. So I do think that this was done in a clandestine manner.
Let me double down on one thing here as well, because there's going to be people saying, hey, I saw some YouTubers say that it was video game effects or whatever. Guys, let me just, that's not the ground level for like what you have to get through. The first door you have to get through is that's Gorgon Stare. That's real. That's not video games. That's not Arma 3. That's not Call of Duty. That's Gorgon Stare made by the U.S. Air Force. So if you want to think it's video game effects or whatever, you shouldn't be going and asking YouTubers or VFX people. This has nothing to do with VFX. Who you should be going to is your Air Force buddies who've seen Gorgon Stare and go, hey, man, is that Gorgon Stare? Because then the argument's over. The answer is yes, it is. And then they're automatically real. No matter what you think, no matter in your head what you imagine, that makes them automatically real. There's no story that they can be fake if that's really Gorgon Stare. No kid randomly made that. Go ahead.
No, just since coming across the Gorgon Stare aspect of this, have you reached out or spoken to anybody with an Air Force background that has suggested to you, you know what, you're really onto something here?
Yeah. And I also want to say, too, is that, first of all, I'm not going to say what my sources are. I just don't care. If anyone disagrees, I've told you all you have to do is talk to literally anyone in the Air Force. So go ahead. Do you see anybody in my replies going, hey, I'm in the Air Force and I've seen Gorgon Stare, and that's not it? No, you've never seen that anywhere, because it is Gorgon Stare. The easiest way to get the right answer is to say the wrong thing on the internet. And I'm yelling that that's Gorgon Stare, and there's nobody correcting it except for people that have never seen Gorgon Stare.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody try to attack this particular vector yet, which I thought was pretty notable.
I have two sources. First thing I did when I realized it was Gorgon Stare, and I realized it was Gorgon Stare on my own from doing my own research, and then went, holy shit, it's Gorgon Stare. First thing I did was search all my old tweets and all my old replies. Who's been talking about Gorgon Stare in my replies? So, boom, find somebody right away that was going, hey, that's Gorgon Stare. And I'm like, hey, so you know anything more about Gorgon Stare? Turns out they worked at China Lake. That's where they build or test the drones, test all the surveillance. They've seen like every version of Gorgon Stare. They even, to prove their authenticity, even showed me what the other camera was, the one we had no clue in hell. We were so far off. The other video that I haven't even shown yet, I thought it was an MQ-1C Gray Eagle with some kind of like L3 Harris camera on it. No, it's an MQ-9 with a lightning pod on the hardpoint 5. And the moment they showed me that, I went, holy shit, that's what it is. Got color FLIR attached to it. So
I'm gonna
I had
text
that source tell me that that's Gorgon Stare. And then the other thing I did, I was looking back through my my phone messages, my old pictures, because I was actually looking for this email that I know Marco Rubio and Chuck Schumer and Senator Rounds got that like basically talked about the videos. And I saw a different picture because sometimes I like screenshot like important messages that people that I think are credible send me. And I looked at it and it was like, I showed this to a bunch of my Air Force contacts and they said it's legit, but it's an older version of the software. And I went, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. I just saved it because I thought it was one of my legit sources. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Now I'm going, holy shit, they were talking about Gorgon Stare. And yeah, several other people have said, you know, yes, it's Gorgon Stare, what have you. But look, we're all in on the Gorgon Stare. You don't think it's Gorgon Stare? Go find an Air Force source that wants to say, hey, my name is Major so-and-so, and that's not Gorgon Stare because I've seen it. I dare you. Literally dare you.
I'm going to text
We've got an Air
Claus.
Force source.
I'm going to text General Claus and ask him.
Several people say I talked to my Air Force source and they just ghosted me and they won't respond. So, you know,
Really?
I would expect that.
And, well, I doubt he'll ghost me, but he's retired now, so.
But they also would add, here's the thing. So, and this is the reason why a lot of people who are like older and retired they also don't know the videos are real because the system post dates them. So like part of the reason why a lot of people didn't realize the videos were real was that the capabilities new, like it was really new in those videos. They were using the most cutting edge stuff. In fact, this Lightning G4 pod underneath the drone camera, if that's really what it is, then that color FLIR capability wasn't standard until 2021. That's 7 years after we're watching color FLIR in that operation. So they were using all the most the cutting edge stuff.
Can I ask, like, how did this footage get even uploaded and leaked? Like, was it obviously somebody in the military or something that did that?
So this was the thing that like people really started to pay attention to me in terms of my own investigative reporting capability. Because in October of 2023, I realized the person that leaked this videos is Lieutenant Commander Edward C. Lynn. Like I found the guy, not just like, hey, how did it happen? I figured out how it happened by watching the videos. I was like, somebody had access to a system that they logged into and they recorded it on like a flash drive like this. And then they just plugged it away and walked away with it. And you go, how is that possible? How is that actually possible? You look into Edward Lynn's case and it was marred in mystery. The strange case of Lieutenant Commander Edward Lynn, signals intelligence, VPU-2 wizards on this secret spy plane program. And I'm going, oh boy, triggered a national security alert at the highest levels, has obfuscation all over the case. Government tries to get him with espionage, but then later on, like a year later, admits like, nope, just kidding. There was never actually any evidence of espionage. Like, wait, what? Then why are you going after this guy so hard? Oh, because he got access to the location where those videos were at, saw it, recorded it, and leaked it. Now, what I'm ready to say is that I was initially blaming Edward Lynn, saying that he must have been part of the operation. That was very stupid of me. They're never, ever, ever going to trust anybody in one of those operations that would have any chance of leaking that information to the public or saying a word about it to the public. The people that go through the green door assignments, they're never going to talk. Edward Lynn was on the rescue operation. He was on the VPU-2 Wizards for the Navy. We actually helped out for a few days. So, of course, some people in the Navy wouldn't have known about the operation. So he went out there searching, and he probably went, oh, I have this really crazy high level of access because I was a congressional liaison and all this other stuff, and they trust me with nuclear weapons. I'm going to go ahead and log into the Gorgon Stare program. Burr, 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 burr. Logs in and goes, oh, what's this? Oh, shit. He probably thought it was aliens zapping the plane away. Because look at those videos. There's so little context that until you really sit and think about it, you don't know what's going on. So he might have looked at that and gone, okay, we were apparently recording with spy surveillance and watched aliens zap the plane away. I'm going to go ahead and save that and show my buddies because no one's ever going to believe me. And he shows one of his buddies. And what do? They put it on the internet. Boom. And now
did he
the government's going after Edward Lynn and his lawyers saying, The evidence is on the internet. And the military is going, well, it doesn't matter if it's on the internet, it's still illegal for you to have done that. And so he gets the blame, even though he's kind of like, he shouldn't have done it, but he might have had a good excuse to be like, dude, I didn't know that we had orbs spinning around planes zapping out of the sky. So they interrogate him. He probably didn't even know that it was on the internet at the time because it was in a really obscure place. No one was talking about it. So he might not even know it was on the internet. And next thing you know, he's getting his door kicked down and they're going, you are in super deep shit. And he's like, what? They're like, you shouldn't have shown your buddy this video because he put it on the internet and now you're going to prison, you know? So he signs a plea deal. Why does he sign a plea deal? Because he agrees. He goes, oh, I screwed up. I can't believe how much I just damaged national security. I just showed China and Russia our teleportation technology. He signs a plea deal, and he thinks that they're going to give him a slap on the wrist because he's sorry. It was an honest mistake. What do they do? 9 years. 9 years after dropping the espionage charges? Yeah, because they literally, in the appeals, argued that what he did was so damning. So damning. And here's the kicker. Why do I know he was on the search and rescue for MH370? He got caught with flight manifests that include search and rescue code names. Just a couple months later after the videos. How? Why? He was keeping the flight manifest to show that he was on the search thing, that he was, you know, honestly searching for the plane, found the videos, and boom.
He wasn't supposed to have
the flight manifest because it would have proven. And the reason why they forced him into the plea deal, they were terrified. Imagine that if he had gone on CNN and said, hey, guys, there's some videos on the Regicide Non YouTube channel, and I leaked those. And by the way, the United States has plasma orbs. They use them to zap planes sometimes.
Wait, so why did they need like codes, secret codes for search and rescue on the manifest?
So that would have been for the VPU2 wizards when they were searching for MH370. So he's got official orders to go search for MH370.
And he's using the drones to do it.
And of course, they don't find anything, so he keeps the manifest. Why? Because he wants proof for later on that he was searching for it, so that when it later comes on that he's the one that leaked the videos, he's got proof that he's the guy that leaked the videos. His story will make sense, right? He'll go, oh, yeah, I was searching for MH370, and I logged into the spy surveillance system that, by the way, Sierra Nevada Corporation makes. They're the Lockheed Martin of illegal spy surveillance, apparently. He logged into the system, and boom, saw the videos. Honestly, like, I think he's kind of a hero. I mean, if I see plasma orb technology, free energy plasma orb technology that can teleport stuff, I mean, it's kind of like the world deserves to know that information, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd say so. Now, another strange aspect to his sentencing, John, is they had initially said, oh, that he had somehow handed over national security information, but then it ultimately turned out as the official reason that he had said something in confidence to like a woman he had met at a bar or something like that, that she was supposedly a honeypot. But then they officially said that there was no transfer as national security information, which makes it even weirder that they would put him away for 9 years when he had really done nothing wrong except maybe go home with someone after the bar.
Yeah, dude, this is not a case where he was telling some hooker something. Like, you guys, they don't go after you for something like that. Who cares what some hooker thinks? Oh, she's going to go tell CNN. Oh, no. Yeah, she got a lot of credibility. No, this had to be like literal documentation. And we looked at the penal codes. It is connected to like videos, documentation, etc. It does, you know, it's kind of vague, but it is consistent with it being that whammy footage and what have you. And the evidence was reviewed by JSOC, the Joint Special Forces. So why are they reviewing the evidence? Why is JSOC reviewing the Edward Lynn leaked evidence? Oh, because it's their literal operation that they were doing on MH370. I'm like 1,000% sure it's him. And here's some more things. So, of course, I started saying his name on podcasts. And I basically took the chance that if I'm wrong, he's going to sue me, right? I'm basically defaming him. And not only did he never sue me, not only did he never reach out, not only did he never return any of my calls, not only did his lawyer not return my calls to his lawyer, he legally changed his name in response to me saying his name publicly to his new name is Edward James Soraya. And you guys are like, wait, no. Not only am I not lying, he made a YouTube video for his new company that he made under his new name while showing a picture from his time in the Navy as Edward Lynn.
Like the same picture Ashton had been showing of him.
In the picture, it says Lynn on his military thing. I'm just going, because I didn't want to believe it was him. I was like, there's no way he's making a YouTube video. And someone sent it to me. I'm looking, and then I'm just going, oh my God, that's him just chilling right there. So of course I, tried to contact him. I left a message at the company, no calls back, sent emails, nothing back, blah, blah, blah. And somebody got in touch with his lawyer. I don't know, because people are out there like pretending to be normal people and talking to people. So somebody gets the lawyer to talk. And apparently the lawyer tells him, like, he was asking about satellite video, which I'm guessing is what this video is being referred to, because nobody knew what whammy Gorgon Stare was. And the lawyer goes, yeah, the feds brought satellite video into the case. What? That's crazy, because come on, man. Now it's got to be those videos. What else is it going to possibly be? The lawyer, again, said that the evidence is available on the internet. What is it that's triggering national security alerts at the highest level? It's available on the internet.
Well, let's move forward with the assumption that the videos are legitimate. Okay.
Well, shouldn't we watch the second video, John? Don't you want to see that?
Yeah, let's. We haven't even got to the second one here. Let's do this, because this is the money one. The first one just like proves the mystery that there's like this is MH370. We can see it in these location, there's coordinates. It's Gorgon Stare. This one is like just egregious. We're looking at color thermal here. I mean, can you even imagine trying to fake that thermal gradient that you're seeing? And the heat signature of the plane, the movement of the plane is all realistic. The shake of the camera, the zoom of the camera,
and this is a different angle.
It's a different unit, right?
It's a different angle.
So this is like horizontal to the plane. I mean, the first one was where, filming down and from an angle from above. This one is like horizontal from the side. This is at the same altitude as the plane. We can see this smoke coming out of the plane, which is significant to the overall story. Because now, again, we're starting to look at like this is a covert operation. Look at the heat signature of the orb, specifically how uniform it is. This is a big clue as to what the orb is. See how it's all green? Watch it for another few seconds. Now when it comes back out here, it's not all green anymore. You see it almost like changed to blue.
And
like changes the blue
trail to it.
It almost makes you wonder at first, like, oh, is it like I can't see it? It actually like changed forms. Like now it's half blue, half green. Whereas before it was all green.
What is propelling it too? Because it's like a red trail and it's not the white trail like the smoke of the plane. You know what I mean? It's like a purple.
Yeah, you see that blackness, and actually it's hard to see in this version. We had to do some color change to see it, but it's there. You can see these black lines in front of the orbs. If I go back a couple frames, I think you can see it. Yeah, there you go. You can see this black line.
Yeah.
Right. Oh God, I'm trying to get it. Oh, okay. One more frame. Right there, you can see this black line in front of this orb. So basically, this is they call it a scramjet engine. It's an air-breathing hydrodynamic engine. It can suck in air, ionize air, use it as fuel, and actually use the exhaust from the engine as a fuel source, and use the fact that it's moving through air. It can use that as compression. So you just make like an opening, and you just push through the air, and the air will naturally compress. And they're using that to generate electricity. And then it basically just has a laser on board. It's shooting a laser. You're seeing this black line in front of it. That's just a laser, a powerful laser being shot forward. Now watch the last second. Right before the plane disappears, there's one more really big clue. I'm going to go to the end of this where there's a slow-mo. And they have this stabilized version of this orbs where you can clearly see this heat signature moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Now watch the orbs actually reorient right there. They go blue for a second. They change their direction. And this is important because they're just magnets. So if you change the spin of the magnet, what's going to happen? They're not going to be stuck in position anymore. They're going to come together. They're going to pull together. And that's what they do. They pull together. And once they get too close, what happens? Well, once your magnets get too close, you're going to hit this singularity point, just like jamming your magnets together. Once they get really close, all of a sudden you're going to have this very huge flux. So that's Coulomb's law, by the way, which is as your charge comes together, the force increases exponentially. So the force is increasing exponentially as the orbs come together until it gets to a point where it's so high that what it's physically doing is it's pushing aside think of it as space-time itself, like the energy that keeps space-time structure. It's the EMP pushes that aside, and for a brief second, that plane's in nowheresville, just literal nothing, real nothingness.
I do think it's interesting that the color of the trail that was following the orbs is the same color of the circle of the plane once it disappears. Like,
yeah, black. They're both black. And here's the big clue. When we watched the first video, there was a release of light, photons. You can see this flash when it goes off. And everybody kept wondering, why is there a flash? That seems so odd to me. I thought if I'm going to see a wormhole, something's just going to blip out and there's going to be nothing. But there's a flash of light. It turns out if you have a ground state change, so imagine ocean level, we're at sea level. If you have a situation where from an energy perspective, you go from sea level down a little bit, a negative energy change, then what should happen is you get a release of photons, a release of ultraviolet or soft X-rays. And it turns out ultraviolet and soft X-rays don't show up in thermals. They show up as black in thermal. And this is important because I was misconstrued at first thinking that black meant that must be really cold. But if it was cold, you would expect to see this gradient change as it like goes towards black. It wouldn't just be instantly perfectly black. It would be like dark blue or something. But we see it just as black because it's actually an ultraviolet or X-ray release of light from what we would expect to see in like a Miguel Alcubierre warp drive metric, a negative energy event. So what I'm saying they're doing there is, I think that is positive energy warp drive. There was these papers about positive energy warp drives like a year ago, is that they figured out a way to produce a negative energy event from a positive energy from those orbs coming together, from a positive energy like an EMP, massive EMP burst. Oh, and so what the orbs are, I was reviewing this on my stream. If you guys want to check out and see the details of this, the Air Force Research Labs are the ones that have been researching these orbs. I was incorrectly blowing the whistle at the Navy because Dr. Salvatore Pais has these patents that are like UFO patents. And I'm going, well, wait, what? When we're looking at orbs, you got these patents that look like they can make orbs. I was wrong. He's been getting cock-blocked by the people that are gatekeeping the orb tech. He wanted to make his own team. And a guy named Jay Stratton and the final boss, Hal Putoff, and his right-hand man, Eric Davis, they came in and said, nope, you can't get a team. Why? Because they've already figured it all out. They don't want other people figuring it out. It was the Air Force Research Labs under Frank Meade back in the 90s and 2000s. They were the ones who was figuring out the orbs. And so the orbs, again, are a scramjet design magnetohydrodynamic engine. And the beauty of it that really made it pop off was that they found a way to extract energy upstream of the design, which goes counter to what we would think from a propellant type of design.
Yeah.
Extract that energy upstream and then basically make something called like a perfect engine. It's like got maximum possible efficiency. So whatever it uses the energy that basically would cause it to stop moving as producing excess electricity. So it's kind of like
pulling it forward rather than pushing it forward,
or just the fact that it's moving at all, because movement is energy, right? If I'm spinning something that can produce energy, so movement itself is energy, something that Tesla understood. So they realized just moving around is energy. So the trick that they figured out that all the fusion designs haven't is don't make your fusion reactor stationary, have it move around. If your fusion reactor moves around, now we don't have to use all this energy to try to force things to come together because the air is already doing that for us. So they're using the air as the fuel source, and they're using kind of like a fusion reactor type design, but instead of trying to force things together, they're just going, nah, just let it naturally happen as we're like flying through the air at hypersonic speeds.
Well, and then on top of that, there's got to be more to these orbs for whatever it did to this plane. Like, what the hell is that? Like, it's not just the engines, right? Like, there's got to be something else in there, whether it's the magnet stuff or whatever. Like, what's your theory on what actually happened to this plane?
Yeah, I'm now 100% convinced. I was like 99.9% before, thinking they teleported it. Now 100%. They're at least trying to teleport the plane in that video. Now, was it successful? We don't really know until we find the bulk of the plane. The fact that we found a few pieces of debris tells me, I don't know. It's not looking great, but it's not enough debris to say that the plane crashed.
Yeah, that's the thing. The growth pattern on the pieces of the plane that supposedly belong to MH370 don't match up with the timeline for what should be on them in terms of how long they were in the ocean. And then the currents should not have brought them to that point either.
Yeah, the crazy part about the currents, and then we'll come back to the teleportation thing, is that I looked up the CSIRO physical debris test that they did. The only one that they did. They threw like a flapper on in the water and some other random trash or whatever to simulate like debris from a plane. And it basically didn't move at all. The flap moved 2 kilometers over a 24-hour period at the best case scenario. 2 kilometers. The problem is you're thousands of kilometers away from Africa where we were searching, and it needs to go like 4 times that speed in order to get there in the time in which they found it. 4 times the speed of the physical drift tests in a straight line. So it has to go the same direction every single day as well for that time. Completely unrealistic. So when you read these drift things where they say, the drift models show that the debris showed up exactly where we would expect, it's all 100% fake. And all you have to do to see how they faked it is remove assumptions and models from it. Like, because what they do is they go, oh, well, the wind would have caused it to blow 3 times faster. And even though the tests don't show that, that's definitely what would have happened. That's what they do. So I think that debris is from MH370. I think they used a teleportation or like a rail gun on the plane, which made it slingshot just like a rubber band from one location to the next. And what that means is that plane was somewhere closer to Africa when it showed up or wherever it ended up. And the reason why I'm so convinced that it's teleportation is that even if it was annihilation, it would still be like the same kind of process, but you wouldn't have to do that whole dance. Why are you doing this big dance where you're spinning around? They're entangling the plane to the 4th orb, to the destination. That's why they're doing that whole dance around the plane. They're trying to figure out exactly the size and shape of the plane and its location in 3-dimensional space. And they're bathing it in non-ionizing radiation, like turning it into a beacon so that the other location knows. In fact, I would not be surprised, even though my name's Ashton Forbes, that there are 3 orbs dancing around nothing on the other side of wherever that plane's ending up, so that you can imagine 2 parallel dances happening at the same time. And then when the zap happens, it shows up over here because those orbs are entangled to some other, either a 4th orb or more than one other orb somewhere else. Or alternatively, they're entangled to nothing. And now your plane you don't care where it goes. You just send it to the nether dimension and it can show up in the Andromeda galaxy, because the idea of what they did is that for a brief second, for that split second, that plane does not exist in our space-time. And for that brief second, that plane can reappear anywhere. And not only anywhere, anytime. It can theoretically appear anytime. Because the amount of time dilation, like when's the plane going to come out, is going to be based on how much distance it travels. The distance it travels. Now, the problem is, well, what do you mean the distance it travels? You're saying that it went to nowhere. If it's in nowhere, how much distance did it travel? Any amount. So for the people that think that the manifest, that is actually possible. It's not what happened, but it's possible. The reason why this plane did not go to somewhere else is that we found those few pieces of debris and the phones were still ringing. The phones aren't going to be ringing if the plane's in Andromeda galaxy. Now, the last thing I want to say is that I think the process is similar to quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling would be the analogy. In quantum tunneling, electrons can go through a barrier that they shouldn't have the energy to get past normally. And you ask, why is that possible? The answer is because there's a medium. There's a ripple in a medium that's being disturbed. And even though the wall's in the way, a little bit of the ripple gets through the wall. And that's why quantum tunneling is possible. So what they do to improve quantum tunneling, you make the wall thinner. The thinner the wall is, the more quantum tunneling. So what do we need to do if we want to quantum tunnel an airplane? Well, make the wall thinner. Make the wall thinner for our airplane, and now our airplane is going to disappear. And what are those orbs doing? They're making the wall thinner. How are they doing that? They create their EMP burst that pushes aside all the 0-point energy that makes up our space-time, and that makes the wall really thin. In fact, it makes it have no barrier whatsoever for a brief second.
Can I ask a couple questions about the plane itself and where it was flying?
Of course.
Was it on its flight path? Like it took off, it was supposed to go somewhere, and this was the routine route it was supposed to take, or was it off course?
Yeah, so let's talk about what happened and why it happened. So, yes, the plane was off its course. The plane took off and flew for 40 minutes towards Beijing, flying to China.
That's where it's supposed to go.
Where it's supposed to go. And 40 minutes in, the plane goes dark. Plane goes dark. No more communications that we are publicly told about. The plane falls off flight radar. And a guy named Mike McKay sees it on fire for a few seconds. He gets attacked, but he saw that plane. Anyone who thinks he didn't see that plane does not understand the concept of refraction. But he saw the plane for a few seconds, and a bunch of people heard loud noises. Now, we know now that the plane turned around. They lied about it.
Where did they see this plane at? This was in China?
No, this was over the South China Sea, heading towards China when the plane went dark.
So, but 40 minutes in is when this guy saw the plane on fire.
Yes, he saw it for a few seconds. Just for a few seconds, he saw a plane on fire. And I have an animation that will help with the audience here as well.
Oh, good.
So, and for anyone who's, my visual learners out there in the chat. So, Mike McKay sees it, and then the plane turns around. It's a manual turn back. Can you pull that one up?
Oh, yeah.
It's a manual turn back. We know because the turn is too sharp. The turn is too sharp to be automated. So we know the plane turned back around, and where does it head back to? It heads directly to Penang, where you would go to land an airplane. So this should indicate that it's an emergency event. For whatever reason, the plane does not land. I've speculated that it was a battery fire, a controlled battery fire in the forward cargo bay that damaged the electronics bay, made the plane go dark. I also speculate that they hid communications, that the plane did communicate, and they knew it was an emergency. And when the plane couldn't land at Penang from the battery fire, it rendezvoused to a point where the United States government told them to go. United States military comes on the radar or comes on the comms and says, rendezvous to these coordinates in the Nicobar Islands.
Is there proof that they said that?
No, I'm speculating right now.
Oh, okay.
But there is a communication that's out there. I'll come to in a second. So 1822 UTC, this is the last publicly known radar transmission from military radar. If you draw a straight line, this is actually a little bit curved. This is not to scale here. If you draw a straight line from where this plane was going from Penang, you hit our location in the northwest of these this image here of the Nicobar Islands. And then we have Catherine T. She's the star witness. She saw the plane glowing with a glow, like an orange glowish halo around it, with smoke coming out of the back of it, flying very low. Consistent with what we were seeing in those videos, actually. And she had to have seen the plane. Look at her location. I mean, everybody says this is where the plane went. Everybody says the plane went right past her. How could she not see it? And to corroborate this as well, there's another China Times. Only in China Times, they reported an intercepted communication between the Navy and the United and MH370 pilot, of the pilot saying the plane was disintegrating and they were attempting an emergency landing. The time of that, according to the China Times, 2:43 a.m. 2:43 a.m. If that is Malaysian local time, is 1843 UTC, which would put that plane right near our coordinates at 1843 UTC. So that's three different sources of corroboration that are completely independent. The two videos that we see, Catherine T. on the boat seeing a very similar sighting, and China Times, China, saying that the plane was disintegrating, attempting an emergency landing. Now, the last point I'll point out here is that this location, a little bit northwest of Catherine T.'s boat, where we're seeing the plane, This is the location where all of a sudden those Inmarsat pings, they claim that the plane just went directly south from here and just flew south for 5.5 hours, and then the pilot landed it in the ocean or whatever down there. Quite literally, the cover-up only requires them faking those satellite pings from this point down south to the South Indian Ocean. And one more graphic I want to show you is I have those satellite pings. I actually have the satellite pings. Actually, this is a video if you want to pull this up. I am one of the only people on the planet that actually looked at the satellite pings because I guess nobody really looked at them. And this on the left, it goes pretty fast. You can see the times. So that's in UTC time. So if I were to just pause right here, you can see that it says 1606 UTC. The plane hasn't even taken off yet. The plane takes off at around 1630. It backs away. So at 1630 right here, it's backing away. 1640, the plane takes off from the runway. So about 1642 right here, the plane's taking off from the runway. Look at all this data. Hundreds and hundreds of rows of data with all these timestamps. 1655. Now, the plane's in the air now. The plane goes dark at 1721 UTC. So we've got another ping at 1707. Look at all these pings.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's nothing. So the plane goes dark at 1721. There's no ping for that. 1803, I'm going to let it keep flowing. Now, 1803, we're at the point where this plane's being tracked past Penang now. The plane now at 1805 would have been over Penang and would be flying out to the Nicobar Islands. Malaysian military was tracking 1827. 1825 is after the last military Malaysian radar ping. Still tons of data. Well, wait, what just happened here? We get to 1840, and here's a phone call. One of the two phone calls to plane. And now at 1840, the data just dies after this. Watch this. You're not going to believe this. We were watching hundreds of pages of data. That was just for less than 2 hours. Hundreds of pages of data. 1840, and then what? Wait, what's all this? It goes from 1840. This is all one phone call, by the way. All these zeros, that's just one phone call. So it goes from 1840, 1941, 2 rows of data. 2041, 2 rows of data. 2141, 2 rows of data. 2241, 2 rows. What the F? That's 5 hours right there. And there's only 10 rows on this Excel spreadsheet. The plane's disappearing from space-time at 1843 UTC or somewhere around there. So right before this data goes completely dead, we're watching a plane get zapped out of the sky. And I could literally have my nephew, who's 7 years old, fake this data in like less than 24 hours. That's all it is. 10 rows on Excel spreadsheet is the difference between plane being zapped out of the sky and thinking this plane went in the South Indian Ocean. So when people tell you, oh, the plane went in the South Indian Ocean, the pings prove it. You're looking at the only data that exists in the world for the plane being in the South Indian Ocean. If you can interpret from this, what is this, 10 columns of data, that somehow this means the plane's in the South Indian Ocean, well, I'm sorry, you're a complete phony because that plane ain't in the South Indian Ocean at all.
Well, can you pull that back up? Because like I don't understand how to read that. Are we looking at coordinates?
Yeah,
Are we looking at?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Nobody knew how to read it. There was no this type of analysis had never been done before. Like nobody had ever done this like kind of analysis they were trying to do.
And where'd you pull this data from?
Oh, this only was given to the public in like 2017, years later. Although they released a version of the data, but not the fully unredacted, not the full data. But they showed the
Malaysian authorities.
So yeah, basically how this got to us was the Malaysian authorities gave it to a family member who gave it to a blogger. That's how we had to get this in 2017. Before that, it was only a controlled release. And the first time this data was released was May 27th, 2014. The reason why that date is important, May 27th, is because that's 8 days after the videos were already on the internet. Videos were already on the internet. The ping data wasn't even public yet. So how would the hoaxer know to like set up this whole story where the plane disappears like in the exact right location that would indicate that this data makes no sense at 1840? So
yeah, so like what on here is the location of the plane? Like which column, or how do we interpret this?
There is no look. All you get is some BTO signals that determine how far theoretically the satellite was from the plane when this ping happened. That's what you get. That's it. From that, they make an arc, and they determine that this plane must be along this arc. Now, the problem is that normally there would be 2 satellites that would be pinging, but there were not that night. That night, only one of the satellites pinged, which made it almost impossible to track this plane. So this data is not very useful, and basically they had to extrapolate. They had to throw out parts of the data that didn't make any sense to come to a conclusion that, oh yes, this means the plane went in the South Indian Ocean. The reason why I stress this is that at some point, do you need to look at it anymore? There's not really much to see.
No, it's okay.
People have to wonder, why are we not finding anything in the South Indian Ocean? Well, it turns out the only evidence we have for the plane going down there, why do we believe that's irrefutable? Why do we believe that's unfalsifiable? Just looking at it, it doesn't even make sense looking at the data. That data is solid for hundreds of rows for an hour and a half. It's hundreds of rows of data. And then for 5 hours, it's 10 rows of data. And here's the real kicker. This one's going to boggle your mind. The narrative they're trying to sell to us is that the computer was turned off. Somebody turned the computer system off. But that means the satellite pings shouldn't be pinging. So we shouldn't be having those. How do we even have those Inmarsat satellite pings if there's no power to the plane, if the systems are all off? Oh, well, it turns out at 1825, 3 minutes after the Malaysian radar ping, someone turned the power system back on conveniently so that they could track the plane. Conveniently at 18, I'm not joking, guys. Go fact check me. 1825, they claim that someone turned the computer back on just so that someone could track the plane so that they could track it in the South Indian Ocean. Because there's no reason, if you were hijacking the plane, why would you turn the plane back on to allow them to track you? Leave it off so they can't track you. This is like literally leaving a trail of breadcrumbs behind you. Like, makes no sense at all.
Yeah. I'm still trying to understand why the plane got so far off course in the first place.
Oh,
like,
well, for that, we need to go into the story. Well, what is the topic of tonight? Conspiracy. Yes. What is the conspiracy?
Who was
to understand this? You need to understand 2 things. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise.
You know what? While he's doing that, we may have.
Ashton, real quick, we've got to do a quick sponsor read.
Yeah, real quick. We'll do one now and maybe one later. Right now we only got one available, but Rumble Premium. The sponsorship is from Rumble, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built a platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France. They are attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers because they don't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask of you. Hit that thumbs up, by the way. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. And if you don't have the means, we're happy if you just watch us here on Rumble. And make sure you guys hit that thumbs up as always. Whew. Okay, go ahead.
Great questions in the chat, by the way. I see Rumble fans. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. So before I do the theory, I want to address a couple things about radar. I see this on these YouTuber channels. It's all full of shit when these people go, oh, the pilot turned off the system and turned back at this location because they were flying between the radars. Guys, that is not how radars work at all. Anybody tries to tell you that the person was avoiding radar, guys, it's a Boeing 777. This is not a B-2 stealth bomber. You literally cannot avoid radars. That's not possible. If you think that's how you can do it, you don't understand what a radar is or how a radar works. A radar shoots an electromagnetic wave at a craft and then it bounces back. There's no button on the plane to make it immune to radars. That's not a thing. And whoever else was saying, oh, they turned the computer back on because they were out of radar range. Again, that's not how that works either. There's nothing in the plane that says you're out of radar range. That's not even like a way to even think of like how that would be a thing. And the radars in question were all turned off that night. Mysteriously. The Indonesian radar was mysteriously turned off that night. The JORN, the Jindali Operational Radar Network, which is a critical anti-missile defense system, the Australian Air Force, can't make this up, issued a formal statement saying that it was undergoing maintenance the night MH370 disappeared. Why? Because it would have 1,000% seen the plane the whole time in the South Indian Ocean. By the way, that system has never been off since, not one time. But there you go. What happened?
Like the cameras at the MDC the night that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
People trying to say that was just a solo job. I mean, come on, the cameras are off. I mean, just they're playing with words, and that's what they do all the time. They play with words, you know. So, but more to the fact of MH370, what happened with this plane actually? Two things that people need to understand. Why is Ashton Forbes still alive? And why did China not blow the whistle on the United States government? Why
they did release something, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
They did release satellite images on the internet, which seem to show what looks like to me like 3 orbs in a triangle formation around something. It's kind of blurry, though. And they did that a few days after the plane disappeared. And that would seem to be, I think the first person that implied that might be spycraft. That might be China saying like, hey, we saw what you did, because it looks a lot like those videos, and the clouds in the satellite images look a lot like the clouds in our whammy footage. Just
do you have those pictures, those images that we can show?
You're gonna have to Google them. Hold on.
Or just China.
I'll Google MH370 China satellite, and you'll find it. And then China also hacked the Malaysian government. China hacked the Malaysian government the next day, stole crisis media minute notes. They were trying to figure out what went down. The reason why I'm still alive, and there you go. I mean, look at that. Does that look like debris in the water to you guys? That doesn't look like debris in the water to me. Those are cumulus clouds we're looking at right there. I know, because I've been staring at them in 2 videos for the last 2 years. That to me looks like China was taking satellite imagery, and their satellite imagery was kind of poor. That's what satellite imagery really looks like, right? Compared to our Gorgon Stare whammy footage.
Yeah. I mean, if a plane had gone down in the ocean and that's what we were seeing, I would expect a debris field. I would expect a much larger spread.
And so what really went down now? If we start to piece it together, why am I still alive? If the United States military was just targeting random civilian airliners and just wiping out 239 people with a fire and orbs, then they would have easily taken me out. What am I? I'm just one extra guy. I'm just some random healthcare guy. No, there's just one more body, like in Watchmen. Do it. Zaps me with, you know? And then the other thing is, why did China not be more aggressive in blowing the whistle about MH370? I mean, we're looking at 2 videos that imply the United States was responsible. Here's the answer to both those questions. China did it. China's the one responsible. So I was just saying this earlier again, and I'm going to say it again. If a thief steals an apple and gets caught and gets their hand chopped off, who's responsible? Is it the law? Is it the vendor? Is it the apple? Is it the thief? It's the thief who's responsible, right? If China was the one that was making this happen, they were the ones who was trying to steal the people on board or whatever they were going to do to those people. It was the CIA responding to what China was doing. And they're the ones saying, hey, if you want to try to do this, we're going to show you how far we're willing to go. Much further than you were anticipating. They let China set up a whole operation to steal those engineers on that plane. The semiconductor engineers, the ones that everybody says, these are the guys. These have to be the reason why they did it. 20 engineers, 8 of them are Chinese. Of course, they must have been leveraged by the CCP.
So were they like defecting or something, you think?
Bingo. They're defecting with the technology, with the intellectual property, which also paints this pretty grotesque picture of the United States basically just being like, if you are a smart scientist about 0-point energy or fusion or whatever, you either work for us or, you know, the orbs come for you, right? So they were trying to take those people, and the CIA planned a counter operation. This is why they haven't killed me. because end of the day, their hands are relatively clean. They're going, you know what? We do worse shit than this. And then, if China wants to do this, then it's going to be bad. And then why the orbs? Because they're doing it in the most spectacular way possible. Just like with that pagers, the Hamas pagers that exploded, they set up a whole play to just like a whole movie to play out. They said, okay, here you go. You're about to get your people. Oh, nope, a fire started. Now your plane has to turn around. And now the CCP is going, oh, crap, what's going on? Why is the plane turning around? And then the U.S. takes control of the plane, flies it to that location, zap. Now China's going, damn, we just got owned. Yeah. So that's why they were hacking Malaysia. That's why they're hacking Malaysia. One last thing I want to throw out there is that, and that's the reason why they couldn't say anything. What can China say? What can China say? They're going to come out and say, America did it. America's going to go, no, you did it. America's going to say, you did it. This is your fault. And everybody in America is going to believe America. So China couldn't say anything. They were the ones who did it. They're the ones responsible. And then what was the last point I was going to say? Why? Here's the other kicker. People have been trying to help out people and get them the answers to what's happened. Like family members have been reached out to by sources. One of them was Guillaume Watrellos, the French father. An intelligence source came to him and said, the Americans know what happened. There was 2 AWACS in the area. Those weren't AWACS. They were drones. They were the 2 drones filming that plane. I spoke to Florence Duchesne. I asked her about this recently because she is on the Netflix documentary saying she vetted that source, and that's a legit source that said that. And she told me, yes, it's possible that they misinterpreted AWACS as drones. This is brand new information. Nobody's heard that other than that was like a couple days ago. And it's not even just that. The nephew of the pilot was told that his uncle was collateral damage. I got a letter called Diego Garcia Whistleblower Letter to Ashton Forbes, which outlines basically the whole story I just told you. And I didn't want to believe the letter was real until I independently came to that conclusion earlier this week. And now I'm realizing that was a white hat. They're not ashamed of what happened to MH370. They just see it as a cost of doing business. They were sending me the answers, the truth. Why did they send me that letter? Because they wanted me to know it wasn't them. It wasn't really their responsibility. But they also wanted me to know that we have magical free energy orb technology and apparently teleportation technology too. And the world kind of deserves to know that.
Interesting. Is it possible that like the orbs that were orbiting the plane somehow like radiated it enough to a certain level that it just camouflaged it from the radar on the satellites and it didn't actually like teleport or transport?
So here's the kicker. There's a DIRD, one of the Defense Intelligence Reference documents that's about invisibility cloaking. You know what the best invisibility cloaking is in that paper? Space-time manipulation. Literally in the paper, lists off using space-time manipulation, just like we're seeing here, as a cloaking mechanism. I think that there is no difference. Technically, if you can cloak an object entirely from electromagnetic radiation, you are blipping it out of space-time. In fact, I think that if this is real, and this history of this technology is real, what's the big event that everybody talks about related to teleportation? The USS Eldridge, Philadelphia experiment. And what were they trying to do when they teleported that battle cruiser? They were trying to cloak the plane from all electromagnetic signals. They were trying to make it invisible. Turns out, light is energy. If you try to make something completely invisible from light so that it can no longer be seen, in effect, you might be just blipping that thing entirely out of our reality. So I think there's a good chance, I'm not saying I'm 100% sure, a good chance that perfect cloaking is teleportation. So in a sense, it is.
Do you want to play that video, Zach?
Well, this is the letter to Ashton Forbes that Ashton mentioned, and it's about 10 minutes long. We can listen to the whole thing. Ashton, are you
I wouldn't probably play the whole thing, but you can if you skip about a minute in, you can hear the story of what they think they did to the plane, I think.
Okay.
For a couple minutes in there, it should explain it and the technology, which I think is useful. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this letter is legit. I don't know if every aspect of it is, but I think this is a real letter. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
I write this because I want the world to know that most of the trouble on Earth are created for political reasons. United States, or at least a covert administrative elite of the U.S., has, at will, complete control, and this has been true since the 60s. Flight MH370 arrived at our base, by our hand, at 1856 UTC after we picked it up, mid-air, outside the island of Great Nicobar. Just one of many, many things we do. We can pick up anything, anywhere, and deliver it in an instant, like a magic FedEx. Some facts about why it happened. MH370 had defectors on board. They were running to China with American technology. They are Chinese by blood and had gotten themselves into a situation with the Chinese regime who got them to choose to defect. The whole play, everything, and I mean everything about it, was a political play to show the Chinese who's their daddy. That's us. Some facts about how it happened. All passengers are dead, all but the handful of deflectors. The plane did not crash. The plane was on fire, we know because we started it. The plane was picked up by us, on fire, mid-air, right in front of the Chinese. The Chinese regime knows exactly what happened, and that was the whole point of the operation. Okay,
you can
this
probably
is what
stop
I
it there.
want to share with
He
you.
goes into the tech here. So that's the big piece, though, right? I mean, that's the story right there. That's the story. And before I got that letter, I had not even really, I can kind of considered espionage, but I didn't really think it was realistic. I was thinking like, oh, they rescued the plane. In fact, Zach, you probably remember, I probably went on one of your shows and was saying that. And then, now after you find out it's Gorgon Stare, then you go, oh, this is an operation. But then you think like, oh, how could we be targeting a civilian airliner? We couldn't just be directly targeting a civilian airliner. There would have to be, there's no Hitler on that plane. There's no Osama bin Laden or whatever, use your enemy that you want. So that would mean there has to be something bigger at play. And that's how I came to this conclusion of China. And that's when I went back to the letter and I went, oh shit, that letter is real. And that letter also was right about the plasma orbs too, way before I knew about the plasma orbs. They even say that's a low energy phase transition is what they're doing to that plane. That's why it's not like the energy requirements of Jupiter. They found a low energy way to cause this phase transition where the plane just blips out.
There's also another piece to this too, John. There was a person who was not one of these Freescale semiconductor employees that was a passenger on the airplane who, from geo data in this photograph, had texted someone from Diego Garcia. And this basically he was Ashton, perhaps you remember it better than I do, but I just remember the presence of this after the search was
the
ongoing.
Philip Wood picture is really interesting. So
Yeah,
it was actually
that's
posted on 4chan. I don't really talk about that much because I think that if something got posted on 4chan, you can't give it too much credibility. Although 4chan more and more seems like the hot pages in Men in Black, where it's like, oh,
Yes.
go check the New York Times. They get lucky sometimes. But yeah, this picture, the first thing people noticed, it was that, hi, my name's Philip Wood. I'm being held prisoner by military, said military specifically. I can't see anything. I don't know where I am. I might have been drugged. And he says he hid his phone in his butt, prison wallet. And first thing people do is they go, oh, Philip Wood was the guy on that missing plane. And so this was like 10 days after the plane disappeared.
What kind of phone did he have up his butt? I'm curious.
iPhone 5. No, that's a good question. Legit question. We did look. iPhone 5. So, I mean, maybe he just had it in the cheeks. Let's not, I don't know. Not my area of expertise.
Too much.
Sounds painful.
He did have iPhone 5, though. We did confirm that. And so, I kept me thinking about it. And his phone
Stop thinking about iPhones up us, man.
The next thing people do is the next post is people realize, oh, there's coordinates in this black picture because it's just a black picture. They look at the coordinates in the metadata. It's Diego Garcia military base. And then people put two and two together and they find that, oh, they just admitted that this was a CIA black site that would house prisoners during Iraq and Afghanistan. And you're going, oh, shit. So when people say, where did the plane go? I mean, went to Diego Garcia. I don't know exactly how it got there because I don't have videos of seeing a plane disappearing out of nowhere. But my guess would be that there was some time dilation effect where the plane didn't just instantly appear on the other side. Maybe it was like an hour later or 2 hours later. And then it probably appears in the air and it's just flying again. Now it's just somewhere else. And they just fly it to Diego Garcia. Probably teleported it near Diego Garcia and fly it down there. And then they have to have underground something there. Now, I haven't seen any proof, but I have seen a bunch of construction contracts and dredging contracts, which would imply they have underground facilities. So if I was doing it, I would fly it to Diego Garcia. I would put it underground. I would offload the bodies and passengers. I would burn all that. I would take the plane apart, and then I would burn all that too. That's just me, though. And I think that what happened was the plane was flying towards Diego Garcia, and pieces of the plane were falling off, literally falling off from the fire and from the stress of the zap that we see happen, which should be able to safely transport it, but doesn't mean that it didn't get like, the physical structure didn't come under stress.
So somebody sent a text messages from Diego Garcia.
Not text messages, posted on 4chan. Yeah. And we don't know. I can't speculate as to why they didn't call so-and-so or send an email. Maybe they did. I have no idea. So that's why I don't look at it as too much evidence. But
how do we know it's a person that was on the plane, though?
Yeah, Philip Wood. I mean, because Philip Wood, the first thing people checked is Philip Wood's the guy on the plane. He was the only adult American passenger. The other thing is that there was more evidence that the plane went to Diego Garcia. There was a bunch of islanders who were ignored by the official investigation, but a bunch of independent investigators went to this small island of Cuvo Haduvo, whatever. And like 15 people saw the plane in the early morning hours, not like one or two, like 15 people in the very early morning hours before prayer, right during prayer. They saw the plane of a jumbo jet, Malaysian Airlines, red and white stripe on it, massive plane with steam coming out of the back of it. And so a bunch of independent investigators, including Mark Dugain and Sergio Calduvo, both went out there and they're both convinced those people saw the plane and that plane was flying. Those people saw the plane flying south to Diego Garcia.
I still think the most unbelievable part of the story is the guy put an iPhone 5 up his ass.
That's why I think that, I mean, it's like, oh God, it's weird to think that somebody faked that. Like, what do you think? Hey, you know what I'm going to do today, guys? I'm going to pretend to be Philip Wood and make up a story about how I hit an iPhone on my ass and I'm at this secret military base. Like, that's almost as weird as why he didn't like call somebody. Like, what your first thought is, I'm going to post this on 4chan? What?
Well, the thing is, in order to call somebody, I don't know that Wi-Fi calling was available on the iPhone 5. All right. So it's reasonable to assume that there would have been a data connection there. Not necessarily reasonable to assume that there would have been a cellular tower for him to connect to.
That's smart. That's very smart. So, but then if you have email, I mean, first thing I'm doing is going to my Gmail and sending somebody an email. If that's me, at least I'm sending everybody on my list an email and probably repeated emails until they respond going, hi, I'm stuck a prisoner, Diego Garcia. But I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
We don't know that he didn't, though. I mean, like, let's assume that he may have. And that traffic would have pretty quickly been picked up by whomever would have been monitoring it there on the island. So let's say that he got some stuff out. They very quickly went to his cell and said, give me that phone. And then immediately went to every single person that he potentially could have contacted and said, you have to be quiet and we're threatening you with, mortal danger if you do.
But the only reason we believe this guy is because his 4chan post said, I'm Philip Wood. Like, there's no way to prove it was actually him who posted it.
We don't have it.
I mean, the geolocation data on the picture is compelling.
You know what I tell
Very
people
compelling.
is, it's compelling for sure. And the analysis of it doesn't show any clear signs of tampering, but you can change EXIF data within seconds. So how would we know? But here's the thing. If I'm Philip Wood's girlfriend or daughter or loved one, I mean, what are you talking about? Who cares if it's a prank? Go fucking check. Pardon my French. Are you kidding me? If that's my family member, I don't give a shit if it's a prank. If there's even a 99.9% chance it's a prank, get your ass to Diego Garcia and go look at where those coordinates are and find my dad or my brother, whoever, right? Like, are you kidding me about this? Imagine it's your loved one. You're going, oh, don't worry about it. It's probably just a prank on 4chan. Let's just ignore that. It's 11 years later, and we still haven't found this dude or his body or the plane or anything. Like, so people shouldn't be ridiculing stuff like that. At this point, like, we should be looking at alternative explanations.
Now, here's the other thing, John, is that Philip Wood's family actually did comment after this. And I believe it was his wife or his girlfriend. She was featured in a Newsweek article. And
yeah, here you go. I got a clip for you. Just play the clip.
Okay, go ahead.
I am certain that there was some intentional effort to cover up what happened. So whether the disappearance of the plane was intentional or accidental, I don't know. But it's absolutely true in my mind that the reason it hasn't been solved, that the mystery hasn't been solved, is because somebody doesn't want us to know what happened.
Ding, ding, ding.
So whether that's to cover up incompetence or bad decision-making or an accident or whatever, I don't know. But you can't have a giant commercial airplane full of passengers go totally silent within minutes of taking off. I mean, there was no communication between the passengers and the ground. I mean, that's for sure. And this was a flight full of Chinese who are notorious for having their phones on during the entire flight. And, you know, all of the evidence that would normally be there from multiple countries having satellites in the air and radar systems, none of that data seems to have ever really been brought forward. So the little bit of hard evidence that we really have seen is the pieces of the plane that have been found, you know, starting at about that 1.5 year mark. Debris started showing up in places and it continued to show up for like 2 more years. And the only thing we really know is that none of that debris had the evidence on it of having been in the water for as long as it should have been in the water. You know, so the facts are pretty limited, but the few facts that we have do not point to it going in the water. They point to it having disappeared on land and then maybe having those pieces moved into the water at a much later state of time.
Wow, that's the first time I've seen that.
I love that when you listen to the actual family members, they're much closer to my perspective than the people talking about suicidal pilots crashing. Look at the plane's not in the water. That's what she's saying right there. Plane's not in the water. They don't believe the plane crashed. They believe the plane was abducted.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. I mean, I got a clip to play of General Quast and what he was talking about, the Sean Ryan show about the quantum communication, because it does vaguely remind me of your perspective of what happened here.
Vague. It should be directly clear. General Quast knows about Tesla technology, and that's exactly what he's talking about in this interview. And he's just saying it in words that normal people can understand.
Yeah, General Quast, he comes to all of our GART conferences that we have.
Shake his hand for me. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. You should come to one of our conferences. You get to meet him. But here, let's play this clip.
Would be a very different reality. So let's get to the most interesting of the quantum technologies that we've observed, and that is quantum communication.
Is this quantum entanglement?
Yes. Okay. And this is what I think he was referring to when he talks about time and space. Here's what we observe, and I'll just talk about what we observe in full knowledge that I'm no expert, but I read a lot and I am friends with people that are experts. When we observe quantum communication, not only when you entangle two elements, meaning that this particle is associated with this particle, when one moves, the other moves instantaneously, regardless of the distance apart. So that blows out of the water, you know, the speed of light is as fast as you can move. It shows that our universe is connected in ways we cannot see, we do not understand. And there's a trilogy of books out there that you ought to read. One of the most storytellers, like Roddenberry with the Star Trek, they are good at looking at the trend lines of technology and being able to predict the outcome of what that might mean as engineers and scientists actually develop it. So in the 60s in Star Trek, you had the communicator, which was our current day flip phone. Okay, they hadn't gone far as a smartphone, but the communicator was pretty darn good for Roddenberry. There is a Chinese fiction writer that wrote a trilogy called The Three Body Problem. Now, you may have heard about it, but you probably haven't read it because it's 3 books.
Do you want me to keep playing it?
No, it's fine. I can. I mean, I can already probably elaborate better than him. I mean, no disrespect to Lieutenant General Quast. I'm a big supporter of him, but the quantum communication thing, yeah, absolutely, it's real. It's real. And in fact, if you read the DIRD, the Defense Intelligence Reference Document, I was just talking about earlier today on quantum communication, they actually talk about a system that corrects for retrocausality. So they can basically set their own speed limit to the system. And what this can, I was telling my dad about, this is really, really, really cool. They can already probably do this, obviously, because the science is real. But what they can do is imagine the Mars rover, which is technically like 8 minutes away from whatever the speed of light or whatever it is. Actually, maybe, is that correct? Whatever the time is. Whatever. We have this time delay. They can correct for that time delay in a way where you could control the rover from Earth here and not just have to say, okay, here's the commands I want you to input. Like you could actually watch a video feed of it and be controlling it, moving around in real time, reacting to the things that you're seeing. And that technically shouldn't be possible because you should have to experience a delay. If that happened, if something happens in Mars, it should take, 30 seconds or however long it takes for light to get here. That should be a delay in the input. There should be a lag. They can use this quantum communication to get rid of lag entirely. We're going to have an internet in the future with no lag where you can play video games against other people and there's no delay input between other people because one person's on the other side of the world or not. So that's just one example. Oh, a couple other quick things I want to point out. I spoke to Field McConnell about this autopilot, air pilot in the plane. Field McConnell's actually liked the idea, the theory that I had proposed out there.
Who's Field McConnell?
He has this theory that the plane could have been autopiloted by this uninterruptible autopilot where the U.S. military can just take control of it. And he believes they flew it to Diego Garcia. And I believe that, I mean, of course, you can autopilot a plane if you can fly magical orbs that can teleport something. So that's not a stretch for me. So I think that certainly could be an element to the story. Like, what if the pilot was unconscious or dead? They would need to remote control the plane. So just wanted to bring that up. And then 2 more quick things is that James Clapper is the one who really should be responsible for the videos getting on the internet because he's the one, fact check me on this, I'm pretty sure it's James Clapper, in 2012 said that they need to have all the Pentagon's enterprise system get joint together. So what did he do? He made them network all the Pentagon stuff. And then some wires got crossed. And next thing you know, our illegal spy system is now on the wrong network. Like the videos get pushed onto the wrong partition. Next thing you know, Edward Lynn has access when he shouldn't have access to that video. Something like that. And then the last bit is the drones. There was a huge drama where a CIA operative whistle blew, went to prison for, I don't know how many years, 6 or 9 years, something similar to Edward Lynn, actually. Leaked the CIA yearly report to The Intercept. And it turned out we were just wiping out innocent people left and right, like 90% innocent people, being killed in Obama's drone strikes. And this was the exact same administration, the exact same people in charge at the exact same time as when MH370 happened. So you see a clear pattern of loosey-goosey intelligence, military, JSOC operations killing innocent people that if the public knew about it, we would be outraged. But it's basically the cost of doing business to keep us safe in our luxury that we have here. And I think it's definitely tied to it. So I just wanted to bring up those points. Last thing, to go back to the Lieutenant Quast thing, is that what Quast is explaining in that video cannot be rationalized through a conventional understanding of physics. The idea that we can beam energy from space is impossible under a classical view of physics. It falls off by the inverse square law. It doesn't matter if you have impedance matching. You can't beam energy 500 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers. But you can if you have quantum entanglement, if you have an ether, an extra dimension. Why? The same way quantum entanglement works. How is it possible that these two things are entangled over a distance? Well, that means we have energy transfer over a distance. We have energy transfer over a distance. I can beam energy. Bloop. Just like that plane. Just like how that plane goes from here. This mass of this plane is enough mass to blow a chunk in the planet. That's how much mass is in a Boeing 777. And yet, bloop, bloop. So we moved all this mass energy from here to over here in the blink of an eye, instantaneously. If we can do that, then we can beam energy. Quast is talking about Tesla technology. He's talking about 0-point energy. He's just not saying it directly because that's what these guys do. And that's what people like Hal Puthoff and Sonny White, when they go on Joe Rogan, that's what they do too. They speak in normie terms in ways where the mainstream academics can understand what they're saying and won't say, this person's a pseudoscientist like that Terrence Howard, you know? So there you go.
Has there been any evidence of these orbs and this technology being used elsewhere?
Not that I've personally seen, but I haven't really looked into it. Like I haven't been looking in to see. There are a bunch of cases that people have brought up. The Frank Veldrich case, I think, is one of the more famous ones. But there are tons of videos of orbs and triangle formations like what we're seeing, which wouldn't surprise me if they were testing it out, you know, testing out their formations, their patterns and stuff like that, flying around the sky. And they date back to around the same time periods. The orbs video started coming out in like the early 2010s. And now it's all the rage. In fact, we barely ever see a flying saucer video anymore. We normally now just see balls of light, things like that.
I mean, it's fascinating.
It makes sense that there would be multiple applications for this technology too, not simply making airplanes disappear.
And if people are really interested, you can listen to the live stream I did earlier, but also listen to that letter to Ashton Forbes because it talks about the implications of that technology. And if that letter is real, then we should be listening to what it's saying. And what it says is, basically it's a simple monostructure they figured out. Is that it's easy to make these things, is what the letter is saying. And that in the right structure, like the triangle formation, they can make something teleport. And by changing the structure slightly, now you have an infinite energy generator. So you start to think about like, this is really like tapping into the power of fire, but in this case, like directly tapping into electricity.
Crazy, man. I don't know. I mean, like, I have tons of questions. I just don't even know what else to say or ask. Like, it's just so interesting. I can't get over the video. Is there any possibility it was edited, the videos, the satellite stuff?
Just being real with you, it's not edited. It's 100% real. I don't even know how they would even go about trying to edit those videos that are like already Gorgon Stare. It would take a bigger psyop to have the videos be edited or faked than teleporting the plane at this point. That's the crazy part. So that's just my...
And people have gone to great lengths to claim having edited those videos and done that to try to discredit Ashton and the entire...
Or claim that they're edited. And I don't care. Like, just being honest with you guys, I don't care what the answer to the missing plane is or whether or not we have free energy technology. I'm outraged that we have free energy technology and they're not telling us, and outraged that we have teleportation technology and they're not telling us. But we have to look at it in a bigger picture than that. Like, this is a game being played where we're just ants. Like, big giants are playing around. China and Russia are big giants playing around, stomping around on our little insignificant lives. For us, it seems like a big outrage, seems impossible and criminal. To them, it's just another day in the office. Just like the letter said. Keeping free energy from the world is another day in the office because in their minds, they're keeping us safe. They're keeping our way of life as it is. Let me throw it to you like this, because some people are probably struggling with how this could all be real. If we have free energy technology, those orbs represent free energy technology and transmutation. Basically, they are the precursor to a Star Trek replicator. Star Trek replicator. Earl Grey, hot, right? What does our society look like if everybody on this planet has a Star Trek replicator? Certainly not a capitalist society anymore. In fact, what even is our society anymore after that? Which companies can make money when there's Star Trek replicators? How many companies go out of business immediately? So you look at it from these implications, you realize, oh, this is way bigger than, just tell me what happened to MH370. In fact, this is way bigger than aliens. Some people are blown away at the idea that we might be alone in the universe. How about everything's a fucking lie? Like everything's a lie, and we're probably living like in a prison, like a managed prison, where like you're only allowed this much advancement over the next 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Ashton, because I wanted to earlier, but you were on a roll. So do you think that Edward Lynn, that video that he put out publicly and the name change, do you think that that was an effort of him to sort of reach out without being able to directly reach out to you, or do you think that it was just strangely
I think he could reach out if he wanted to. I actually think he could reach out. I actually don't think him coming out even moves the ball forward, sadly. What I realize is I'm in a literal prison of silence where like the media is never going to talk about this. They're never going to say my name. And people are attacking, but it's like the low level people that can never be traced back to anybody. And they're just mostly online trolls. So if Edward Lynn wanted to come out, he could have reached out many times, and he probably could have done it in a way that would have been, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble. And you
don't think that would put him in a greater level of danger? I mean, he's already pissed the government off.
Yeah, he's going to go back to prison because he'll break his plea deal. But if he talked about the videos, but he could talk in general terms, probably, right? I mean, the videos are out there, I think Edward Lynn was basically brainwashed or, just agreed that he made the mistake. And so he's not interested at all in coming out or talking, nor is his family, by the way. I mean, I found his brother-in-law, his sister, no one will respond to any of my messages about him at all.
Mm-hmm.
So what was I going to say? One more. So yeah, I think he saw those videos, he put them on the internet, and then he realized what a mistake he made. And yes, he would go back to prison, but yeah, he could have easily reached out to me several times. And he's kind of in the wind now. I don't even think he's where he lives. I think he's just straight up hiding. Why did he do that? I think he thought maybe he wouldn't get seen, he wouldn't get noticed, and just thought he's going to rebuild his life and what have you. And I don't mean
a tremendous miscalculation. I mean, the video confirms that he is the one you've been talking about, and he puts himself on the map by doing so. I mean, he must have known that the internet was looking.
Yeah, he's not in danger, though. If he was in danger, he would already be dead. Like, they must have already agreed that he made a mistake, and that's why he only got 9 years. I mean, that's still a really, really long time for what he did. Yeah. But his sister is a lawyer for Homeland Security, working in countering weapons of mass destruction. She has a really interesting paper, by the way, about the next generation of warfare beyond nukes. And her husband, Edward Lynn's brother-in-law, is Sean Naylor, mainstream media national security consultant.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, I think I've got a really clear idea of what's going on. Like, the spooks are the ones who are, they're telling Edward Lynn not to talk to me. But here's the thing. Even if he came out, what's it going to do? Do you guys really think that CNN's going to say, Ashton Forbes found Edward Lynn and now he's coming and here he is, we're going to show him on CNN? No, they're not going to say shit. So the reason why Edward Lynn's not coming forward is because it's actually not going to make a difference. The Gorgon Stare thing is bigger than Edward Lynn, because Gorgon Stare can't be denied. Hundreds, thousands of people were probably seeing Gorgon Stare. The Edward Lynn thing, people would just make up something. They would say, Edward Lynn's just lying to grift off people. He didn't really leak the videos. He just is going with it because Ashton said he's the guy. They'll come up with something.
Can you explain the significance of the Gorgon Stare stuff? Like, why is that such a big revelation?
The reason why it's so huge is that it's undeniable. Anybody that's seen the Gorgon Stare, they can confirm that, and they'll also know that nobody.
What's undeniable? Like, what do you mean? Like that the technology exists?
The videos are real if that's Gorgon Stare, and then the Gorgon Stare, what we're seeing is a 24 frames per second video overlay. The coordinates are moving in 24 frames per second. The background's moving in 6 frames per second. Why? Because that is software that is playing low frame rate video with a built-in overlay built into it that has a moving coordinate system in it. And we even found that at least one of the videos has a 1 hertz update rate, which turns out to be the actual standard for military footage, which is only standard for military footage as well. So forensically, and this is for actual forensic analysis, as opposed to people just saying, hey, I think that somebody used a blob in this That's an opinion. Forensic analysis is, hey, it's 24 frames per second and 6 frames per second. And if you ask AI to review all whammy footage, it says that this is Gorgon Stare with a 100% certainty. And the only other way it couldn't be Gorgon Stare is if it's another system exactly the same as Gorgon Stare. So in addition to the sources that confirmed it, yeah, of course it's Gorgon Stare. But the other reason why this is so big is even more than just being undeniable that it has to be real, because what, somebody knew what Gorgon Stare looked like and rebuilt the system or used the system to fake the videos? I mean, what is the story? It doesn't make any sense. The other thing is that the number one debunk against the videos, the number one debunk is that an anonymous Reddit account, days old anonymous Reddit account, claims that they're an autistic Rain Man that miraculously found some photos on the internet on an obscure website. And if you invert them and change the size around, it turns out they perfectly match the clouds in the MH370 Gorgon Stare whammy video. What are the odds? It's impossible. They literally match, and there's multiple clouds. Like every cloud in the scene is in one of these 4 pictures. And I go, wow, that would be proof that the videos must be fake. But it's not, because that's Gorgon Stare that we're looking at. It's literally impossible for a human being to have created that video because it's Gorgon Stare.
Couldn't AI have created it, though?
AI didn't exist.
Well,
AI
it didn't exist commercially. If they have the technology to spin orbs and transport
But
somebody,
once again,
I'm sure they had the
if you
technology
rule
to create
out
AI.
that it's not somebody from the public, there's no story that already makes sense, right? Military is faking their own AI video of their own Gorgon Stare technology. Why are they faking their own Gorgon Stare technology? To give the information to China about how their Gorgon Stare, the brand new Gorgon Stare technology works?
Again,
just run through the scenarios.
About
You'll find
what
there's
actually happened to the plane. You know what I mean? Like that, our government's been known to give us shiny objects to distract us.
And if we had found a crashed plane somewhere, I would agree with you. But there is no plane. Whoever faked those videos knew we were never going to find a plane, right? That's
Well, I mean,
the
only alternative to that doesn't mean it crashed. Like maybe something else happened, you know, and they just didn't want us asking. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I understand. But the point is, again, think through the scenarios of it. Now, what I want to point out as well from the cloud pictures, we should have known those cloud pictures were planted. Obviously, whoever had access to the Gorgon Stare, if it's a defense contractor, the Air Force, or joint operations, after they found out those videos were leaked, they took the whammy imagery, and maybe they did use their own AI to modify it to make it look like it was part of a set of existing photos, and they planted it on the internet on a textures website, and they had a days old Reddit account pretend to have found it, which of course they didn't find it. If you think that you can look at pictures of clouds that have to be stretched and inverted and go, oh, those are those same clouds I saw in that video, that is the dumbest story ever. The person was completely made it up. But we have forensic proof of that too. Because the videos are real, all evidence will always confirm that the videos are real. That's just a proof, right? If the videos are real, all evidence that comes out must prove that the videos are real. So all we did was go, well, when were those cloud pictures uploaded on that website? No, I'm not going to take the word for it. I'm going to look at the API of the website itself. The API that can't be modified unless the website's modifying their own API. It says those pictures were uploaded October 25th, 2014. Oh, it's my birthday. October 25th, 2014. Well, there's one problem with that. The videos were already on the internet in May, 5 months before that. So the videos predate the cloud pictures on the internet by 5 months. Those pictures don't exist anywhere else on the entire internet, nor in the torrents of the website. We even checked the torrents of the website, and the pictures don't exist in them. So yes, it's Gorgon Stare. Anybody in the Air Force can confirm that's Gorgon Stare. They've seen Gorgon Stare. It might be some IR nighttime version, because that's a nighttime video we're watching, but it's definitely Gorgon Stare. And
can I ask something?
The debunk is fake. Go ahead. Yep.
Have you ever seen any other Gorgon Stare videos besides this one?
Nobody publicly has. No.
Okay.
There is none on the internet, as far as I can tell. The closest thing that we can find is some really janky version of whammy that they give to like law enforcement for managing crime in the city, which uses similar technology. It might be, but I've never seen anything remotely like that. The exact version that I believe we're looking at is Gorgon Stare increment 2 with Argus IR. Now, there's no way I can possibly know that because Argus IR was a DARPA project that was completely classified, but it specialized in nighttime surveillance. So they were basically taking the same daytime whammy capability they had and doing it for nighttime. And I think that's the reason why it's 6 frames per second. Standard increment 2 Gorgon Stare is 12 frames per second. And I think that it's half because of it being whatever is related to the nighttime IR capability they do to it. That's just a speculative, though.
Interesting. I mean, I'm going back to what you were saying earlier about like it would be more work to pull off the psyop than it would be to do the plane, and I think that's like conflicting with my own brain because I'm a big believer in like everything we see is a psyop, almost everything, and especially we just got this release of like the VO3, the AI technology that they have to fake stuff, and I'm also a big believer in the technology that the government has is years and decades ahead of what gets released publicly. So I think back to 2014 when this plane went missing, we're 10, 11 years beyond that. I believe they probably had the capability to, and now I don't know the motivations of why they would do it like this, but I do believe they would have had the technology to fake a video like that. You know what I mean?
Of course, they had the technology to fake a video like that. They had AI way before us, no question, no doubt. They had to in order to move those orbs around. That's 2014. There's no publicly available AIs, and they're clearly using an AI navigation system, in my opinion. But that's not the issue. It's not a matter of do they have it. I mean, and this isn't to be contentious, but your argument basically boils down to they have advanced technology, just not this advanced technology, right? That's what ultimately claiming they made fake videos using AI of their real system to fake a video of a plane disappearing that, by the way, is still missing to cover up something else that they did. The story falls apart immediately. I mean, there's just no way in hell that's not the case.
Well, I'm just saying it's possible they could have used AI to create that video, and the only other explanation is being what we saw tonight, and like your explanation of it, which I'm not saying is without merit. Like it's a very interesting and compelling a theory. But I'm just saying, like, there are other options. You know what I mean? It's not like one or the other.
And also the plane could have been taken away by unicorns as well. So just saying there's other options doesn't really mean anything. It's like, what are the odds of that? What are the odds that they fake their own videos? There's no realistic possibility. Now, again,
why not?
I'm open to the scenarios. I just explained why not. Like, why is it not possible? Because the story of them faking their own video is using their own AI capability that was not publicly known. I don't have a problem with that. To fake a video of their own secret spy surveillance system that's not meant to be known, that they would be revealing by faking this video of it, to fake a video of a plane that implicates them in the disappearance of the plane, that somehow they also have to know we're never going to find the plane even 11 years later. Otherwise, the whole psyop falls apart.
Yeah, but also we don't know the guy who put the video on the internet. Maybe he faked it on his own. You know what I mean? Like maybe... I don't know. Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, coming up with other possibilities.
That's the problem, right? Is that, and I've done the devil's advocate for all of these, and I'm not trying to put you down. I encourage everyone to play whatever devil's advocate, believe whatever you want. If I thought there was any chance of any other story even being remotely makes sense, I'd be down with it. End of the day, I'm not trying to tell people what to think. I'm not sitting here going, hey, you've got to believe in teleportation technology and orbs, and you've got to believe that there's these, elaborate operations going on. I'm just saying, here's the evidence and the facts. Feel free to build whatever story you want that fits with those evidence and facts. To me, it seems extremely clear that the evidence and facts point to a single story, one of two major countries vying over technology that the public has no idea about and covering up what happened to it. All of those countries covering up what happened, because nobody really wants to have blemish and nobody really wants to reveal what kind of technology they really have. But certainly there are other possibilities, including the possibility that it was a suicidal pilot that studied ocean topography and, decided that he wanted to go on the longest, weirdest end of life thing ever, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that I can't get over the videos. Like how does a fucking plane just disappear like that? It's crazy.
Yeah. And some people are saying my theory is too brittle. I'd say, if anything, the theory is lock solid. Part of the reason why it's so difficult to come up with alternative theories is that the comprehensive part of the theory is it's too comprehensive. It does, I think, address almost every question people can come up with. Doesn't necessarily prove them. I agree. But I mean, how can you prove a situation where planes disappearing? And to John's point, I can't tell you how many times I looked at those videos with just wondering, like, how can this be real? And like, I was more inclined to your point of like, I can't believe it. I'm willing to believe they have magical AI that can do this. I was willing to believe that the whole world was fake and that I was in the Truman Show. Like, because that's like really what you're being asked to believe here, right? You're being asked to believe that like everything is a giant lie. And I'm here to tell you, sadly, that's the case. But even if that's the case, I don't think it diminishes what we've got going on in this world. And from my discoveries of researching it, this technology, we can take this technology back and we can make a paradise. I mean, it's really ultimately up to us. I think we're probably going to destroy ourselves, but there's a chance that we make a paradise out of this and get to Star Trek world. So, you know what? Let's go for it.
Yeah, I think the hurdle in my mind is that they've used this. I mean, I have a few hurdles, not gonna lie. And this will be my last comment question, is they use this on a plane like near China, but this technology would allow them to like, they could teleport Trump out of here and do whatever with, like, they could do this to people. If they can do it to a plane flying through the air, they could do it to somebody sitting in a chair anywhere, you know?
Maybe.
Why?
So here's the thing. There's probably limitations to it. I don't think this is God tier technology. This is the same fallacy that I think a lot of the UFO people fall into, which is they see a flying saucer and go, how does a flying saucer crash? It's got to be invincible. No way that you can be that advanced, you can't possibly crash. Well, it's like saying, like, well, if you're on a surfboard, a master surfer can't fall off. All it takes is one wave, one bump, and you're going to fall off your surfboard. So it's kind of like that with the teleportation technology. This teleportation technology doesn't mean you can just teleport to Andromeda. What if you need a fourth orb somewhere? That means you have to send that orb somewhere. There might be several limitations. It might have to be something you have to do in the sky. Remember, those are air-breathing magnetohydrodynamics. Maybe they can go underwater, but maybe they can't breathe underwater. We don't know anything about what these limitations are. My opinion is that there's probably quite a few limitations that I would say probably has to be something in the air. I think it's short-range teleportation. I don't think you can even send that version of it. I don't think could go to another galaxy. But I think they probably are working on that, and now it's 2025, so maybe. And then to the other point of, well, if you have this technology, why not take over the world? Well, we have taken over the world. Like, who do you think controls this planet? It's not China. It's not Russia. It's the United States government. We don't really look at it like that because we live our cozy lives where we never see any of that stuff. So, and then you don't just like take out people's military leaders. Then what? Then there's a new leader, and that person is going to be more radical than the next. Look what we did with ISIS. We created ISIS. So you don't go and just wipe people out and take them over. It doesn't happen. Instead, you just control the planet. If anything, I would think that whole one world government thing is what they're really trying to do. They need everybody under one government where they can control and see what everybody's doing so that nobody can wipe us all out.
That's fair.
Yeah. So the question at the end of the day is, who was controlling the technology that made the plane disappear? And, are those good guys? Are those bad guys? Now, are those the same people who might control it now that we have Trump 2.0, or is it something else? And, all of these things are, up to interpretation, hypotheticals. We really don't know. But, I've obviously talked about this enough on my own program, having Ashton on the show. All of the data points, as far as I'm concerned, I think that Ashton's theory is the most likely. And I also think that it's improbable that the government would fake something like this to reveal their own technology, to send people down these rabbit holes. That just doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah. And I can see why, I can see, I totally understand that, you explore all alternatives, and I encourage people to. I've always just been trying to find the truth. If somebody could find some new breaking evidence that would, throw a monkey wrench in this or change the perspective of it, I'd be all about it. I think that if people want the truth, the number one people to be pressing would be the U.S. Air Force. That's their Gorgon Stare. If that's their Gorgon Stare, the videos are real. Or maybe they have, they did some super advanced AI to make some weird psyop. But in either case, we should be getting answers, right? Like, hey, why is this video out here? What do you guys know about MH370? Because certainly not nothing. Certainly you have some data on it. So that would be all I would want people to take away from this, if anything.
Awesome. What do you say? Should we go through the rants, Zach?
Let's do the rants and do our final ad spot.
I don't think we got any more from from Rumble. Let me double check though. Yep, we got nothing else for ads, so we'll go through the boosts here.
Okay,
the rants. Eleanor 2000, thank you for having Ashton Forbes on. His work on flight MH370s revealed more than the reality the U.S. government was involved, but also the reality of 0-point energy. Yeah, and this is very timely.
Agreed.
Considering Quast's interview with Sean Ryan. He talked about a lot of stuff that fits right in line with what you talked about tonight.
Yep.
Keith O'Higgins for $2. Does Ashton think the Russians could have been flexing their UFO technology? The Tunguska UFO crash in Russia in 1908 predates our Roswell UFO technology through deconstruction and reassembly. You're muted,
Ashton.
Yeah, I think we passed them up, but I think they were at one point ahead of us, like during the USSR. And I think we stole their scalar technology. And when USSR fell apart, I think we just leapfrogged them. That's my opinion. But yeah, I think that Russia, China, and the United States are all trying to like advance that teleportation tech because they want it to go from short form teleportation that has all these limitations to, God tier technology teleportation.
I think there's also like you mentioned a one world government. I think there's also like a race to overcome that one world government. And it's probable that the United States, Russia, and China might have competing interests that align in order to assume control of that control grid.
Yeah, and you were asking about the Trump administration. And this is the part where, for me, it's not so much bad guys and good guys. It's like, what factions are there and where are they aligned? Yes. And I think clearly there was a faction that was in charge of this operation that was like the Obama administration and his people. And now Trump's got his people in there. And I don't know how they're going to act or what they're going to do. In fact, I highly doubt we'll ever see videos like this ever again leak on the internet.
Ramble on 365 is now a monthly supporter. Thank you so much. 1027 JS says interesting. Thank you, Joe. Keith O'Higgins, I just remember Don Lemon saying it was a black hole when it happened. I think we know now. Don Lemon knows black and white holes. Thank you, Keith. Rave Daddy 523. Could this be Project Paperclip 2.0 today because of some of the high level people on that plane?
It could be, but here, something even better. One of the Project Paperclip scientists is Friedwart Winterberg. He just passed away a couple of years ago, and he had a bunch of fusion research that has never been publicly available. And he's one of the people that wrote a couple of those DIRS, Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, as well. So turns out Project Paperclip is totally real. I thought it was like a made up thing, but totally
no, it's totally real, Ashton.
Yeah. Things you learn when you follow these conspiracy rabbit holes. Yeah.
Dan writes 717. Hey, John, was watching DPH and heard General Quast speak of helium-3. Zach, do you remember the quirky movie Iron Sky? You recommended where Nazis flooded the moon. They were mining helium-3.
I absolutely do. And it's so funny that you bring that up because I was just talking with Chris about that earlier today as well. Yeah. Yeah,
they use helium-3 to super cool their arrays. So superconductive arrays need to be cool to this really low temperature, and the helium-3 cools it really quickly. So it was actually Eric Hecker, the Antarctica whistleblower, who told me that they have this huge storage of helium-3. At least he thinks it's helium-3 in Antarctica, and they use it for their array there. So I have a feeling they're using that for a little bit more than just standard electromagnetic stuff. I have a feeling they have what we would call like a quantum or a gravity type detection and transmission.
Oh. S-hole, what if the orbs were for triangulation, then a DEW took the plane out?
The what took the plane out? What was it?
A directed energy.
Oh, directed energy weapon. Yeah. Well, they are a directed energy weapon, and they're using directed energy weapons as well. So that's the big rub of them. Yeah.
Keith O'Higgins with another doozy here. Isn't space and time manipulation just a fancy definition of marriage? Target shopping and titty bars are just cloaking social device techniques. Love it, Keith. Sleep state. It might have been in loose change. I heard it, but the real planes that disappeared on 9/11 supposedly landed in Ohio or somewhere.
I think that was definitely in there. And Brad obviously has his 9/11 documentary coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if there would be a discussion of that as well.
Rave Daddy 523. What if this plane was sent back in time to 9/11? It was one of the planes that hit the two towers. Just curious on your thoughts.
I don't think retro causalities it might be possible. I haven't decided on being able to go back in time. And for general, I'm saying no right now. I'm thinking that what you can do is you can reverse your aging process or like growth but you wouldn't be able to go actually physically back to a previous time. But I have a feeling if I'm going to be wrong about one thing, that's the thing I'm most likely to be wrong about. So we'll see.
And I would say no, just because a Malaysian Airlines flight is highly recognizable, and the planes that hit the towers were not Malaysian Airlines flights.
Ramble On says, great show, thank you. Mad Dog Tower, I was in VPU2 when all that went down with Eddie.
What does VPU2 stand for?
Whoa, Matt, is that?
Don't go on, John, because this is relevant.
Is that person trolling? I was in VPU when that all went down with Eddie. Yo, that person needs to Mad Dog Tower. Yo, you need to reach out to me on X.
Can you?
If you're not trolling, you need to reach out to me for sure. Because the reason why I think it's so important is that anything about Edward Lynn's state of mind or what was happening afterwards will give us clues. Now, I'm like 100% sure I'm right. And if that's the case, almost certainly whatever was going on in his mind at VPU2. In fact, if somebody was on the thing, they might know that he was like part of the search rescue. They might have been on the search and rescue with him. So that would be a huge piece of evidence if somebody's willing to go on the record.
What does VPU2 mean?
Oh, that's the secret spy plane program that he was part of, the VPU2 in the Navy. So the VPU2 wizards, at least the rumor goes, I don't know if this is true or not, that they don't wear their badges when they're overseas. Like the type of people that you're doing those clandestine operations, where if you get caught, they just disavow you. Oh, he says he's not trolling. Okay, so I need to get Mad Dog Tower. Can you send me some way to contact you? Are you on X or anything like that, Mad Dog Tower? Anyway, I'll try to get in touch with them.
Banish the Shadow says, interesting that Quas mentioned Gene Roddenberry as an example of storytellers seeing where tech is heading. Roddenberry was rumored to often visit Michael Aquino at the Presidio base.
So obviously, Michael Aquino is a pretty detestable character in history, but I don't know anything about their relationship. But even people who are disgusting have connections to advanced technology and ability to use their imagination.
Red, White, and True says, ever seen the TV show Lost? It's very similar to this. Wonder if it's predictive programming.
Oh yeah, I liked Lost for a little bit. Kind of went off the rails. It is predictive programming in a way. I think Star Trek is more predictive programming. And like Quas said, it's a combination of people. They had people telling them stuff that, hey, this is real. Plus just people being forward looking. Like Sonny White even said that if you look at the old warp drive like imagination designs, they were really close to what they end up kind of looking like. Pretty similar. So yeah, I think that the stuff's been leaking for a while into the public's mindset through the media.
Sure.
Mad Dog Tower says he is Tower of Power on X.
Is that, let me add him. Tower of Power.
While you're doing that, ZBM says, I have to ask, why is it called Gorgon Stare?
Well, you guys need to check out the clip. They actually had a Sierra Nevada Corporation made a promo thing about it, and it's sorry, I added Tower of Power. I don't know if this is the right person, but so they had a promo, and the whole promo is like the scariest biblical thing ever about the Gorgon Stare freezing you in position and how they needed this capability to improve intelligence and what have you. So other than that, I can't say, but they have a lot of really creepy names.
All right. And then last up, we got Truth 25. Ashton, I can show you another example of the teleportation that has been covered up. Drop me a DM on X, Danny25.
Yeah, I saw that. Nothing personal. I'm just not too interested in other videos. A lot of times people send me videos of stuff flying around the sky. I've seen other videos that people have seen on social media. If you've seen it on social media, I've already seen it. If it's your personal video, I appreciate that you've got personal videos, but I'm not the guy that's going to be the Ghostbuster you call to solve all your personal stuff. What I do tell people is I know those videos are real, the ones that the MH370 videos. So if you see something on there that validates your personal experiences, I'm very glad for that to be the case, because there's a lot of people who have been getting gaslit about stuff that they saw and being told that they didn't see stuff when they really did.
Gotcha. I think that's all the rants we got. So, Ashton, I appreciate you coming on. Definitely interesting. Where can people find you?
Find me at JustXAshton right here on all social media. On Rumble, I'm at JustAshton on Rumble. But yeah, follow me everywhere.
Oh, we got one more rant that came in. Lopat67. Wow, thank you, Ashton, for your research and voice. Mind-blowing show. Need to rewatch. Glad for John's asking about Gorgon Stare Inception. Yeah. Crazy stuff. Zach, anything?
I'm going to go search for that promo video and see if I can't find it. You said, what was the name of the company again?
Yeah, I'll just play it for you guys real quick, actually.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
okay.
awesome.
I think I have it. But here it is. Gorgon Stare. This is the one where I edited the thing into it. Here you go. This is good.
When the ancient Greek Gorgon, Medusa, stared down upon her enemies, they were frozen in place, their voices mute, their bodies turned to stone. In this petrified state, she studied them with a sharper eye. The smallest details revealed, the story of their lives held still before her. Sierra Nevada Corporation's Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Division developed Gorgon Stare in response to an urgent Department of Defense need for a real-time surveillance system. Wide Area Airborne Persistent Surveillance, or WAPS, is the ability to continually observe a large area from an airborne platform. Capable of watching a city-sized area 24 hours a day for an unlimited amount of time, the system's electro-optical and infrared sensors capture all activity without interruption in the field of view both day and night. An Air Force MQ-9 Reaper remotely piloted aircraft equipped with the Gorgon Stare system observes a potential threat, revealing its story, its secrets, its intent.
Yes, I added
this extended Overwatch streams live, real-time footage of the area within the flight's circle of persistence to multiple users and stores the footage in a real-time, accessible archive. Live view capability in the circle of persistence provides situational awareness to both command authorities and unlimited on-the-ground units and users simultaneously. With the ability to search and rewind through the data, the imagery can be studied in near real time for forensic analysis in the wake of an incident. Gorgon Stare is a battle-proven ISR system with over 10,000 flight hours in combat operations. It has detected and neutralized numerous threats as the reconnaissance asset of choice for maneuver commanders. What once took days of intelligence preparation of the battle space has now been reduced to a single mission. In addition to displaying the full field of view, 10 distinct zoom areas within Gorgon Stare's unblinking view can be simultaneously collected and distributed to any appropriately equipped users, including intelligence centers, on-the-ground tactical troops, and first responders.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. You can barely even tell I edited the videos in there. It just looks seamless the way that they're in there as they describe it.
Yeah, bravo.
That's Gorgon Stare.
So very interesting. Awesome.
Guys,
well,
I gotta wind down here. I'm
yeah, we do too.
Yeah, we're getting out of here too. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. And yeah, I guess we'll see you guys next week. Thanks again, Ashton.
Take it easy.